I'll briefly, I hope within the 5 minutes like my colleagues. I represent an organization called National Biosafety Authority. Some of you may be familiar with it, maybe not, but our main core business is to regulate matters related to GMOs, to ensure safety for the human beings, animals, and the environment. Therefore, science communication is very key for us as an institution, and anything to do with communication in relation to science plays a very critical role in ensuring that the public is vested with our mandates. So we are coming from a situation where issues of biotechnology, precisely the GMO issue, is a very hot issue back home in our country. It has a background of when we first had a serious hunger situation around 2002, and we had received a donation from some international partners. The then president did refuse that donation because we did not have capacity. Later on, we had the biotechnology policy coming in place, and the act and the setting up of the National Biosafety Authority. I thought that brief background is going to help us know where we are now as related to science reporting and also reporting as in relation to our institution. So we've, over the years, seen the number of journalists reporting on science increasing. I know my colleague did speak about the low numbers, and yes, that has been the case, but we've decided to engage the media. We had a training with the media, the journalists themselves. We also had a training for the editors. And in this training, we did not just include ourselves, we brought some scientists also so that they could be able to learn and share and communicate at that level, because we wanted an even platform where we could hear from both ends. We also take issues of media relations very, very critical. I think a number of, I think people have spoken about it and have emphasized the importance of media relations. And I think it's a good rapport that will help you maintain that relationship. Maybe some of us are a little bit advantaged because of being from the background of a journalist and rising through that position of editorship. And it's like you're working with colleagues. So when you work with colleagues, I'm sure Auntie would attest that you have that confidence, and you know, they'll trust you, and you know how you work. Like she said, they'll be able to give you a story even when you know that they're not supposed to do that. In other words, it could be unethical for them to do that because a story should go through the editor before it comes to you. So we've also seen that in terms of science stories, there are very few that really make it to the front page. And I think most of the stories, when it comes to finding a story that is on the front page as related to science, it's one that has been diluted, downplayed, or it has been politically inclined. It's just that we're not showing the slides. I could have shown you that recently we had a story that made to the front page. We've had a number, but I think one of them was where the vice president was talking about the safety of the GMOs. It came to the front page because of the political figure. Yes, the vice president, and I think the issue at hand at that time was the issue of mealie-meal, GMO mealie-meal. We have not allowed any product of mealie-meal in the country that is genetically modified, and that is an issue. And basically, it will be on the next slide. Yes. So mostly the other issues would be conflicts. When you look at, okay, that's the story that I was talking about. So the vice president was talking about the safety, and I think this is one of the lucky stories, because the moment you mention issues to do with GMOs, it's a very emotive story, and you get a lot of people talking in the negative. It has a very negative perception. So having a story on the front page is one of the plus, we would say. And then we've also had our former health minister speaking about it, and also our boss. So you'll find that normally there'll be a lot of like fake stories or stories that will not have, that are not well confirmed, and Other issues, you find that is conflict of interest from the journalists. So at times they will write a story because they have that interest. At times they will just maybe not even write about that story. So those are some of the challenges that I would say we do face from time to time as regards to science communication, and particularly communicating issues related to our mandates. The jargon also, where I think the inability to break down the big terms, the scientific terms. The bureaucracy is also one of the other issues that I think makes it very difficult for the journalists in terms of reporting on science, because it's a channel. You can find researchers are doing this. They will not want to speak there and then because maybe it's a team and they need maybe to consult and all. That's another issue. But it's quite different from our institution. When they come to us, for us, we have a more friendly atmosphere where we'll be able to respond to them almost instantly. Then I think the other issue that has to do with science communication has been the inappropriate stakeholder identification. Because sometimes I think in general, like communication, what I've noticed is that when you don't identify your stakeholder properly, you will not be able to communicate that information to the intended stakeholder. And also I think the assumption that when we give the public information, then we will make them accept what we are doing. I think those are some of the other issues. Miscommunication as well, the half-truths, the myths, also the back and forth also has been affecting, I think, the science reporting, and issues to do with facts and truth also. And then we've also decided to, another slide, maybe just to talk about the challenges. We can go to the challenges, just to highlight. Okay, so those are some of the issues that we do face, because when they are reporting about, for example, GMOs, they will not talk about GMOs in a more positive way, in talking about the advantages, If you get a story on page 1, it could be sensational. Most of the time, then you'll find that it is there. And then we've also noticed that there's a lot of disinformation. So sometimes even when we engage with our colleagues in the media, we still notice that gap, and we still have to keep engaging them and re-engaging them so that we move at the same level. Of course, we have our other colleagues in terms of, I'll give an example most on the GMO aspect, the anti-GMOs. You find that they have a voice, they speak more. So which means that even us on the other sides as regulators and also the scientists, we should be able to stand up and provide this information so that we are going to tell the people the right information there for them to make informed decision. I know my colleague will talk about information and talk about news. Then we'll go back to the issue of, I think, the process. When you look at the scientist versus the journalist, I think there's been the issue of the process, the scientist aspect. We'll look at the process. We'll look at an issue. If, for example, we want to grant a permit. I know that for us to grant a permit, it will take us up to 120 days, because I know there's a risk assessment that has to be done. There's public consultation that has to be done. And my colleague from the media could have got a wing that X and X has made an application, and this is hot news. They want to write about it. Of course, one, announcing that this person has made an application, it's news, but the nitty and gritties, they have to wait until the 120 days for us to either grant that permit or if we have rejected it. Then I think there's a lot of complexity when it comes to information. Some of this, I think, which creates like fear in the people, and also on the other aspect, you fear to be misquoted as well. And then the other issue that we've noticed is that the limited space from the media. So sometimes you can give the media even a page, for example, of a story, a 500 words, a 300 word. But at the end of the day, what you get is a paragraph or two. That does not mean that they do not want to cover us, but it's simply because of limited space. And I think my colleague did mention that we should buy space. I think somehow we have also relaxed a bit and hoping that they are covering us. we could support them in a way by going a step further, buying space, putting up an article, writing, even getting a space that allows us to have a weekly or a monthly publication. That is going to help us, and also we will be able in such, I'm talking about we will be as in general, but we've done a few times as the National Biosafety Authority, but not at like a regular and series way. Of course, with the TV and radio stations, we've had like some partnership for them to run programs, and that have been running. We actually have some that are currently running. Then, where do I go now? Okay. I think it's also sometimes because our colleagues may not have the correct information or adequate information, they'll pretend not to have heard. They'll pretend not to, maybe not to know that there's this story because they don't have the correct and adequate information. So they will not write about that story and that article. And I think also the issue of agenda setting, I think that is another issue. And I think my colleague James mentioned the issue of the interest of whoever is at the top there, the gatekeepers. Sometimes it's not even about the journalists that we interact with. It's about the other gatekeepers there that maybe some of the stories may not see the end of the day. And at times it's because of proximity and prominence, something that comes up that is more prominent than what we have. Then you'll see that the story will take a day or two. If you're lucky, and if you're not lucky, it will die a natural death. So we also recognize the importance that the journalists make in terms of informing the public, being the watchdog and all. And in our situation, we try as much as possible to interact with them, to provide them with adequate information. We have gone as far as creating media platforms, groups, where we interact with them from time to time. We have an open kind of arrangement where we are able to provide information to them. Maybe not just to take more than 5 minutes. Thank you. I'll end here.